Good evening. I'm Rohit Sharma and welcome to Desi From DC, coming to you every night from heart of Washington. This is where America's power corridor meet India's prime time to break down the political, economic, and global stories that shape both nations live from Washington, D.C. From Capitol Hill to Raisala Hill, we connect the dots between what happens here in Washington and how it echoes back home in India. We begin tonight with the big stories of the day. Homeland Chief calls immigrants killers and leeches. Trump's news website shames major news outlets. Afghanistan crisis returns to haunt Trump administration. Indian American Amar Subramania to lead Apple AI. And Costco sues Trump over emergency tariff powers. Tonight, a story that reaches from the boardrooms in Silicon Valley to families across America and potentially touches millions of children's future. Billionaire philanthropist Michael Dell and his wife Susan Dell have pledged an eye-watering $6.25 billion. That's roughly 559 billion rupees to support what are being called as Trump accounts. The funds are intended to provide a financial head start for up to 25 million US children under the age of 10, with a direct deposit of $250, which is about 22,500 Indian rupees to each eligible account. Critics and proponents alike are asking, can one-time contribution truly make a difference? Or is this just the beginning of a long experiment in social savings, much like what we've seen in India? Now let's break it down. What does it mean? Who qualifies? And whether this is a game changer for generational wealth building? The Dell donation to Trump account is being described by some as one of the largest private commitments ever made to the benefit of American children. And here's how it will work. Children born between certain years or children under the age of 10 living in zip codes where median household income is $150,000 or less will be eligible for the $250 deposit.
And this afternoon, Michael and Susan Dell are committing to one of the largest private donations in American history, which will directly benefit the next generation of American children through the new Trump Accounts program that we created in our One Big Beautiful Bill. And Michael and Susan came to see me along with Brad, and they said, this is an idea. And I said, I think, it sounded just so good and so unique. But it is indeed Giving Tuesday, one of the biggest days of the year for philanthropy and charitable giving. In honor of America's 250th anniversary, the Dells are announcing today that they are giving 25 million American children $250 each to save and to invest in their personal Trump account. Now that's the equivalent of $6.25 billion. In other words, to put it succinctly, Michael and Susan are giving $6.25 billion in total, and as a total contribution. That's big stuff. I don't care who you are. That's big. Come here, give me a hand. Let me have a little of that luck rub off.
Now that deposit is separate from new Trump plan of granting $1,000 to kids, which is about 90,000 rupees, set aside for children who were born in between 2025 and 2028 under the same program called as a Trump account. Once deposited, the money is not going to just sit idle. It will be invested in indexed funds, and it is meant to grow over the long term. When the beneficiaries or these kids, they turn 18, these savings could then be used for higher education, buying their first home, starting a business, or any other major life expense. Now, supporters call this as generational investment. They argue this early capital could help level the playing field, especially in households that rarely have any savings. Critics, however, caution that $250 that Dell is depositing is modest, and without additional contributions, either from families or follow-on policies, it may amount to be little more than a symbolic gesture. Still, with $6.25 billion behind it, for millions of children, this may be their first real savings account ever. In a dramatic courtroom appearance from his hospital bed, the Afghan man accused of killing one National Guard soldier and critically wounding other near the White House pleaded not guilty to murder and assault charges. Rahmanullah Lakhanwal appeared virtually squirming in pain with his eyes closed as prosecutor revealed he screamed Allahu Akbar while opening fire in downtown Washington. The chilling details of the attack that has reignited America's immigration debate and why the judge ordered him to be held without bond. Lakhanwal could be seen on a courtroom video in a hospital bed, covered by a blanket, with only his head visible. Shot multiple times after the attack, he mumbled his name when asked while squinting, telling the judge through a Pashto translator, "I have pain, I cannot open my eyes." He's charged with premeditated murder and assault with intent to kill after allegedly shooting National Guard members Sarah Backstrom and Andrew Wolf on November 26th. Backstrom, just 20 years old, died from her injuries the very next day. Wolf, 24, remains in a very critical condition. DC Superior Court Magistrate Judge Renee Raymond ordered Lakhanwal held without bond, rejecting defense arguments that prosecutors waited too long to file charges and that he had no prior criminal record. No condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the safety of the community, the judge declared, citing the sheer terror from the incident. She added, "It is fairly clear that he came across the country 3,000 miles armed with a specific purpose in mind." According to an 8-page charging document released Tuesday, prosecutors say Lakhanwal screamed Allahu Akbar as he opened fire. Surveillance video tracked his movement standing on the sidewalk near Farragut West Metro Station for about a minute before running toward the intersection and around the corner. The camera captured the soldiers collapsing and Lakhanwal apparently chasing the shooting at another witness before bending down near his two victims. Lakhanwal came to the US in 2021 after working with American forces in Afghanistan before the military withdrawal, spending recent years living in Washington state with his family. DC U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro attended the hearing, sitting in the front row with the U.S. Marshal beside her. After exiting through the back of the courtroom, she held a news conference outside stating, "We have no idea who he is. He has no connections to the community." When asked about the death penalty, Pirro said, "It's a very weighty decision that comes later in time, one that ultimately the Attorney General will make." Defense Attorney Terrence Austin complained that the jury pool was being tainted by public news conferences about the case. The attack has become a flashpoint in Trump's immigration crackdown, with the president announcing a permanent pause on migration from all third world countries and the State Department immediately halting visa issuance for Afghan passport holders. As Lakhanwal recovers in his hospital bed awaiting trial, the case has reignited fierce debate over vetting procedures for Afghan allies who assisted US forces and whether America's promise to those who risk their lives has now become a political liability neither party wants to defend. The shooting near the White House has triggered more than just an immigration crackdown. It may have opened a door Pakistan desperately wants America to walk through. The attacker was an Afghan who worked with CIA, vetted for years, yet somehow slipped through. But here's the deeper story. Pakistan is in crisis. The Afghan Taliban, once their proxy, has turned enemy. 4,000 Pakistani soldiers have been dead since 2021. 67,000 military operations have been launched. The border is burning. Trade routes closed, and Islamabad is running out of options. They've tried airstrikes. They've begged Saudi Arabia and Qatar to mediate. Nothing's working. What Pakistan really needs is America back in Afghanistan, with billions flowing through Islamabad once again. The attack might just be the catalyst they've been waiting for. Could Trump be walking into Pakistan's trap? Our next report explains how Islamabad could use this tragedy to resurrect the war on terror, with Pakistan back at the center. Here's a report.
A shooting just blocks from the White House. 2 National Guardsmen attacked, 1 dead. The gunman, an Afghan who once worked for the CIA. President Trump's response was swift, ending immigration from Afghanistan and deploying 500 more troops to guard the capital. But there's a deeper game at play here. The attacker, Ramanullah Lakanwala, came to America under a program protecting Afghans who helped US forces. He had been vetted by the CIA since 2011. How did this happen? Here's where Pakistan enters the picture. Back then, much of the intelligence feeding American operations came from Pakistan, traded in exchange for US strikes against Pakistani Taliban leaders. It was a cozy arrangement until it wasn't. When Trump withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, those famous images of Afghans clinging to departing planes weren't just about American failure. They were Pakistan's victory lap. The ISI chief literally celebrated with tea at Kabul's Serena Hotel. But that triumph has turned into a nightmare. Today, Pakistan is hemorrhaging. The Afghan Taliban, once Islamabad's proxy, has become its enemy. Since 2021, 4,000 Pakistani soldiers are dead, 20,000 injured. The tribal areas are in revolt. Pakistan has launched 67,000 military operations. 67,000, and it's not working. The violence is the worst in a decade. 30 security personnel die every month. The border is on fire from north to south. The Taliban calls the Durand Line fictitious. They've closed trade routes. Pakistani produce rots unsold while businessmen beg for the border to reopen. Islamabad tried airstrikes. Kabul hit back harder. A full invasion? Suicidal. So Pakistan needs someone else to do the heavy lifting. Someone with money. Someone with power. Someone like the United States. For years, the war on terror pumped billions into Pakistan. Unaccountable funds flowing to generals. Those taps are now dry. Pakistan has tried luring Saudi Arabia and Qatar into mediating. But what it really wants is America back in the game. Back in Afghanistan, with Pakistan once again playing the indispensable middleman. This Washington attack? It might just be the catalyst Pakistan needs. A prod to get Trump reinvested, even if only from Pakistani soil. The tribal areas are alienated, the army is stretched thin, and Rawalpindi is running out of options. Getting Trump entangled in Afghanistan again is not just strategy. For Pakistan, it's survival. With Debangna Datta, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Apple has made a blockbuster hire in its desperate race to catch up in artificial intelligence, appointing Indian-American AI researcher Amar Subramania as its new vice president of AI. The move comes as the company's current AI chief steps down and Apple Intelligence faces harsh criticism for falling behind its rival. But the question is how Apple is betting big on an executive who knows exactly what Google and Microsoft are planning, because he built their AI strategies. Apple announced Monday that John Giandra is stepping down and will serve as an advisor before retiring in the spring of 2026. Subramania, who most recently served as corporate vice president of AI at Microsoft and spent 16 years at Google as head of engineering for Google's Gemini assistant, will lead Apple foundation models and ML research. This marks one of the most significant leadership shakeups in Apple's AI division, as experts say the iPhone maker has fallen dangerously behind rivals. Apple Intelligence has been poorly reviewed by users and critics since its launch. The company is scrambling to salvage its reputation in the AI arms race. Subramania brings nearly 2 decades of experience in machine learning and large-scale AI systems. The Bangalore University graduate, who completed his PhD at University of Washington, is regarded as a seasoned engineering leader known for bridging cutting-edge AI research with real-world products. His appointment represents a significant and audacious bet by Apple, hiring someone with deep insider knowledge of its primary competitors' AI strategies, and hoping he can translate that expertise into products that finally give iPhone users the AI features they've been demanding. Apple says Subramania's deep expertise in both AI and ML research and in integrating that research into products will be important to Apple's ongoing innovation and future Apple Intelligence features. But for now, Apple is betting its AI future on an Indian-American researcher who's already helped build the competition's most formidable weapons. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is calling for a drastic immigration crackdown, urging President Trump to impose a full travel ban on countries she claims are sending killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. Her inflammatory remarks came after the White House shooting by an Afghan national who had been vetted and admitted under the U.S. resettlement program. Noem declared, "We do not want them, not even one." But here's the problem. She hasn't specified which countries would be banned and how it would be enforced or what happens to millions who are already in the US. Asylum decisions are frozen, visa issuance halted for Afghans, and green card holders are being reviewed. Critics warn this sweeping language stigmatizes entire communities and abandons America's refugee commitments. Supporters say national security demands it. No official list exists yet, but the message is pretty clear. America's doors are slamming shut. Our next report examines who gets caught in the crossfire. Here's the report. The US Secretary of Homeland Security has proposed a sweeping travel ban that could reshape American border policy. Kristi Noem, appointed earlier this year as Homeland Security Chief, has urged Donald Trump to impose what she calls a full travel ban on any country she deems responsible for sending killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies into the United States. She made the recommendation publicly on Monday following a high-profile shooting near the White House earlier this week. An Afghan national previously admitted under the U.S. resettlement program is accused in the attack, prompting renewed scrutiny of immigration policies. Noem's message was unequivocal. We don't want them, not one. But she did not specify which countries would be affected by the ban, nor how such a sweeping prohibition would be implemented or enforced. The proposed ban is the latest in a series of aggressive immigration-related measures from the administration. In recent days, all asylum decisions have been halted, and visa issuance has been frozen for certain nationalities, including Afghans. Existing green card holders and refugees admitted under prior administrations are being reviewed. Supporters argue, most citing national security, that stronger restrictions are necessary to ensure public safety and to preserve resources for legal residents and citizens. To be clear, no official list of barred countries have been released yet. And even as Noem pushes for changes, her comments have stirred concerns among lawmakers, civil rights groups, and immigrant advocates who say any policy must carefully balance security needs with America's long-standing heritage as a refuge. As the debate unfolds, the nation watches, uncertain which doors may soon be swing closed and what that could mean for immigrants, asylum seekers, and the future of U.S. immigration policy. The White House has launched an interesting new website feature called Media Offender of the Week. Publicly shaming news organization it accuses of spreading false information about President Donald Trump. Under a banner reading "Misleading, Biased, Exposed," the page lists CBS News, The Independent, The Boston Globe, and names repeat offenders including the New York Times, Axios, Politico, ABC News, The Hill, the Associated Press, and everybody. An offender hall of shame highlights CNN, MS Now, which was formerly MSNBC, The Washington Post, and CBS News, again with claims categorized as bias, lie, malpractice, and left-wing lunacy. The White House claims media outlets misrepresented Trump's response to Democratic lawmakers urging troops to refuse illegal orders, falsely portraying it as a call for their execution. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt also slammed a New York Times article suggesting Trump's schedule has slowed, calling it unequivocally false and accusing the paper of double standards compared to Biden's coverage. The Washington Post responded stating, "The Washington Post is proud of its accurate, rigorous journalism." Press freedom advocates have raised some alarms about the government creating an official enemies, a list of journalists, warning it could chill independent reporting and undermine First Amendment. This marks an escalation in Trump's media war, moving beyond social media attacks to official White House platform designed to discredit journalists. Critics argue that the using government resources to target news outlets resemble authoritarian tactics. Supporters countered that biased media deserves accountability. As the Hall of Shame grows, the question remains, is this legitimate pushback against media bias or an attack on what some are calling free press itself? The Louvre is making headlines, but not just for a recent jewelry heist. On Tuesday, the world's most visited museum unveiled stunning new galleries designated to bridge cultures and centuries. The Gallery of Five Continents brings together over 200 sculptures from Africa, the Americas, Asia, Europe, and Oceania in what Louvre calls a dialogue between cultures. Imagine a Moai head from Easter Island standing face to face with an ancient Egyptian pharaonic sarcophagus. That's the kind of cultural conversation happening here. The museum also reopened renovated rooms showcasing 17th and 18th century Italian and Spanish masterpieces, including works by Baroque painter Bartolome Esteban Murillo. The timing is significant. The Louvre has faced harsh criticism for security lapses after thieves stole Napoleonic-era jewels, forcing some room closures. Now it's trying to shift the narrative back to what it does best, celebrating human creativity across time and space. Let's take a look. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Desi From DC. This is Rohit Sharma for India Today and India Today Global. And if you're watching us on India Today Global, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button before you leave. Stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay curious. Thank you and have a good night.